So hi.
Hi, Jess. Hi, everybody.
It is June 10th, and the last we spoke was May 31st. So it's been just 10 days, which maybe that feels like a lifetime ago. Um, so what are some of the things that have happened in the last 10 days? What are some of the updates about the land and the Hawthorne project?
I did.
Yeah, wow. Feels like, time goes by so quickly and feels like so much happens in such a short amount of time.
Hmm.
Yeah, and also it's like I can't believe it was 10 days. Yeah, uh, because I almost feel like that just happened. Also, in a little bit of both. So we did take a little bit of a break and went to Dartmouth to visit my dad, Tom. And while we were there, it was like, yeah, we were fully into the fully in the mode of being living rurally,
Mm.
going to the big city and being like, oh, we need to go to all the stores. So they're
Run some
definitely,
errands.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, so there were errands to run, things to get, Costco's to go to, and the hardware store to go to. So we got a lot of stuff there, more stuff than we can really even store in the trailer.
Like what? What did you need to
So
pick
we
up?
need, like a pole saw, um, like a power pole saw, so that we can cut tall branches in trees, trim them. We got what are they called? Loppers.
Poles, pitchforks, um, yeah, buckets, power tools. We borrowed a bunch of things from Nick's dad.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, like extension cords. Um,
and power tools, like a miter saw and well, a few different saws actually.
yeah, and for the Bunkie project, apparently we need two ladders,
Right.
lots of caulking.
Mm.
Um, they provided us with a list of all the tools that we would need. So
That's handy.
yeah,
So we got a lot of that stuff, and it's here now, ready for when the bunkies come, which we still have a ways to go.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, there's still even some tools that we were considering getting that we haven't yet. For instance, things like, oh, what those? Sorry. Um, for instance, things like a chainsaw,
Mm.
which we might wait further down the road. Partially because we got heard some horror stories about lost fingers, but
Oh, geez.
more so because yeah, we do want to ensure we're properly prepared to utilize the tools, but also like do we need it at this point? And we might be able to um for the larger trees, we might be able to bring somebody in to do that who knows what they're doing, slash
Uh,
has already lost fingers. Um,
according to the contractor.
yeah,
Oh,
he,
that's funny.
he works with a lot of people that have been doing this for a while and they're usually missing a finger.
Or
Oh.
yeah, other
Yeah.
extremities. Uh,
I left my fingers in Cape Breton.
Yeah.
and one of the days when we were just exploring the land, we did meet the neighbor, the Browns, who owns the Swallow Bank cottages. His name's Tyler, and yeah, he saw our truck there. He came to say hi, and
Hmm.
it was it was really lovely. He's a really great guy.
Mhm.
Um, he knew the land better than we did because he grew
I
up
guess
there.
he's, yeah, right next door.
Yeah,
Mhm.
his family was from there, and he grew up right beside us, or across the street. Um, yeah, so he just like kind of walked through the property with us. He told us where the property lines were, so we kind of have a clear sense of that. He told us that there was a spring, so there's spring water that runs through our property. That
Hmm.
Potentially two
Oh,
local.
interesting.
yeah, which we otherwise would never have found on our own, probably,
Yeah.
because it's just in the most obscure place.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like right on our property line. So that was really fun to know that we have that natural resource. So it hopefully is better than groundwater.
Mm,
Um, and because he's already done done the clearing process, we can kind of learn from his experience. So apparently he and his wife just cleared the whole land themselves, and it looked exactly the same as ours currently.
wow.
All they used was a spacing saw, and that was also one of the reasons why we didn't think we needed a chainsaw yet, since they just cleared it themselves with just a clearing saw.
Right.
Um,
And also we have different strategy. Like
Right.
we're not just going in and clearing everything. We
Yeah.
have kind of walked through and identified some pathways. And maybe we talked about this last time, like
Mm,
the path that it looks like the deers are going, like, because you can see their footprints. So what we have been cutting now is branches to make that path walkable.
mm,
and now that we
trimming
have
branches.
gotten a little bit of rain, we did
Yeah.
explore the land during that rainy season just to kind of see where the seasonal water pooling happens.
mm-hmm.
And it does seem like it happens a lot in the multiple spots, kind of in the woods.
Mm.
And
Partially on the path we identified.
yeah,
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
Might
was
not
to
be
like
a good path. Yeah.
ankle deep mud, and so we're just kind of reevaluating our access to the river, just like based on that information.
Right.
And also we're just contemplating ideas on how to possibly maybe fix the soil to make it less muddy,
Mm-hmm.
swampy.
And collecting water. Where can we collect water? Create ponds, things like that.
Right.
Improve the brook. That's another thing. The brook, even now, it was moving one day that
Mm-hmm.
it was moving, but it's still right now.
Mhm.
Interesting.
And from the walk with the neighbor, he also mentioned that it was funny because it was the same day we were talking about, oh, a haven can go here right by the river.
Yeah.
Um, and then we met him, and he's like, I don't think about building any structures here because it floods a dozen times a year, and it flooded really high last year, and
Mm.
that's why like even their pathway was a little bit rough with debris.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so it's just good information to have just while we're still in this planning phase before we make any, how permaculturists say, type 1 errors or type 2 errors, is those ones that are hard to fix.
That's a type 1 error.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
that requires a lot of energy to like change
Undo.
the way it is, yeah, to undo it.
Yeah.
So it was like good information and like sad information, knowing that we have less space to utilize than we thought.
You were saying you have, instead of, because the property is 8 acres,
Mhm.
how much is usable?
Well, presumably it was 8 acres. Presumably it's less now because the river has changed. So there might be some acreage loss down beside the river.
Mm.
But then the upper portion, I think, is 4.6 or 4.5 or something acres.
Before the slope that goes down to the river? Okay. Nice.
That part is the usable part.
Cool. Hmm.
The other part, it's not that it can't be used, it just can't be used for structures.
Oh, I see. What do you have any thoughts about what you would use it for? Oh, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, potentially tenting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
things is not permanent.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, so you got a lot of tools. I was curious about how did you make your tool list? Like how did you know what tools you needed to get?
I think that was collaborative. You start.
Yeah, so it's just really online research to begin with, and all the essential tools you need for a homestead.
Is that what you searched?
Yeah.
Oh,
uh,
that's awesome.
yeah. Or rural living, and living off the grid. Like all of those were like keywords that I was searching for, and then I compiled a list, put it on Excel, and then we whittled it down to priorities, right? It's just like, okay, what do we need for our project, rather than it being a master list of like all the tools that exist in the world that one would use.
Yeah, because there's
Um,
things like welders in there, right?
yeah,
All right.
That we're not going to use right now or don't have any expertise with, or yeah, it's just, oh, well, and also we have a limited space issue right now. We just have,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
we're hoping to get a shipping container soon, but that's when we were in Halifax. It was like we kept having to remind ourselves, okay, all of this has to go in the trailer that we live in. Like whatever we take, we need to store somewhere. Where is it going to go? So trying to keep it to somewhat essentials for at least the next month,
Right.
month and a bit. Even if it was something that we need after that, then we could maybe hold off a little bit more next year.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
The spreadsheet is beautiful. It's broken down into, and then we identified who has it. Like Pam and Tom have those tools. We have them. We're bringing them from Calgary. We need to buy them, but it's broken down into categories of like high priority, mid priority, low priority, and then there's even ones that are just like, we really don't need this, but Sam needed to write it down.
Is this a spreadsheet, Sam,
It is.
that you made?
Yeah.
You have a gift. That is impressive. As a non-spreadsheet person, I admire your skills. This is amazing. I love that.
Call it overkill. I love it too, and it brings great joy to see to see things organized like that.
I can appreciate that. That's
But
so
I was really excited to have a shovel again.
Mhm.
One of the highlights is buying a shovel.
Nice. What are some other highlights?
We also stopped at a Canadian Tire on the drive back. And of course there was a garden center there, and of course I needed to pick a few plants. Like it's right there.
What did you pick up?
Oh gosh. Well, a blackberry bush.
You
We're going black.
only need one.
What's that? Yeah, that's what the hope is. Although I googled that they don't like they like sandier soil, so I'm like, well,
Put
let's
it
just
down by the beach.
yeah, we'll put it
Lots of sand down there.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And a Juliet cherry. Lots of plants that we already have in Ramsey, like a Veronica, like all the flowers, Veronica, catmint, mint, which is good for deterring mice. We were just gonna plant that around the trailer.
And ticks.
And ticks, yes. Some marigolds, and yeah, just lots of other perennial flowers. Just
Amazing.
yeah, just already have in mind like a perennial garden somewhere. Don't know where, but I have the plants for it.
Yeah.
All gardeners.
I love it. So that's your highlight, Sam?
Oh yeah, that amongst many
There's
many
also
others.
tons of seeds that we got on the way too.
Ooh.
Don't know where those are going either, but one can only dream. That's the current phase.
Certain seeds that you're really excited about?
Yeah, it's just like things things you can direct sow, like beans and root vegetables,
Nice.
like dill and things that grow fast,
Yeah.
lettuces. And like I think it's a good season just to kind of see what grows well and what doesn't in this area. It's just like a science experiment.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so great. What about for you, Nick?
Well, I think when we got back, we saw a bunch of gravel laid out. It wasn't finished or wasn't pressed down yet. I was really excited to get home to the trailer.
From Dartmouth to the property, because
Yeah,
you've moved from the intense.
right. So we stayed at Live Life Intense. What is that? 10 days? 9 days?
It was like 2 weeks.
Weird. So now we're at our neighbor's grandmother's rental.
Mm-hmm.
So they have cabins. They also have RV spots. So we're tied into the electric. We're tied into sewer. We're tied into water.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. We're down the road. Like we can walk there. We biked there in a few minutes. We walked there in 10 minutes. So we're closer because it's rained. It's nice to see the progress out front. And I mean, it looked beautiful when it was a bunch of weedy plants, like, and there was a lot of lupins in there. So it looked quite nice. This could, in a way, this is bringing more, like, we're making it more unnatural. It's just stone on top so that we can put the trailer and we can put some structures there and park. But it was still nice to see the progress, like knowing that what we're working towards, to see that forward movement and momentum. Confirmed up yet. It had rained for a few days. So we couldn't move directly there yet. We had to come here first. And at least now we're closer. That's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also met with some MBA students. And it's great. They made a lot of progress in such a short amount of time. They did some market research analysis on tourism in Nova Scotia and particularly Cape Breton, and just like kind of analyzing the strengths and the weaknesses and opportunities and threats of like what we're planning to do. And yeah, they've showed some compelling data that it's like a really good project to continue on, and just like the prospect of tourism in Cape Breton has
Very
just
cool.
doing really well. So it's really exciting to see some facts, and yeah, we're really grateful to be working with them.
And this was planned before. It wasn't necessarily spontaneous. You had planned this in the spring, is that right?
Yeah, it's a process that you have to apply for. And then the students have to pick pick projects that that is interesting to them. Yeah, so we were really happy that they picked us, and they'll be producing a business plan next week.
So cool.
Financial projections and all of that. So like it's really great to like lend their expertise to us.
That's so cool. Oh, that would be a really fun update too, to hear more about that. Any other highlights?
Well, I said well, but then I didn't have anything to say.
I'm sure there are lots like in between.
Oh, right. I guess one of the things I was thinking about, and yeah, this is not a highlight. It's more like is it a highlight or is it anyway? What I was thinking about is like underneath all of this is there's so much time that we're spending doing admin, calling people, trying to coordinate, find pricing, getting quotes, like, and I wouldn't call it's neither a highlight, it's not really a low light either. It's not like it's bad, it's just remembering how much planning goes into just like a single step forward. Coordination, how much, like, it's a lot to take one step forward, and sometimes all of that coordination to find out we can't take a step in a certain direction, and we have to like, oh, this is the thing we have to do.
Right.
So that's all happening in the background. And then but if I were to pick one more highlight, I think it's just like the people that we get to meet and how we learn from them, like being here and interacting with Ralph directly. He's coordinated the foundation, or sorry, the gravel next to the road, but also we've been talking about so many different things. We've been talking about water, we've been talking about sewer, we've been talking about the spring, we've been talking about, oh, the shed that needs to, or the stables that probably needs to get taken down. And he's like a wealth of information and just like a really nice guy and cares about our project and us, I think. Offered, to hook us up with water at his cottage. Just like really kind, our neighbor to
And
still
it's
just
a really
interacting with
strong,
people.
a really strong sense of community. I feel
Mm. Oh, that's amazing.
it's really beautiful to experience.
Yeah. That's so cool. Oh, I'm curious about those things like the admin and the planning, because if you say, we're gonna go and live on the land and live off grid for the summer and start this project, you picture muddy hands and lots of, like, you're clearing debris and planning and building stuff. So what you were talking about, Nick, the kind of unexpected, is it unexpected to be doing sort of the coordination and the investigating behind the
Yeah.
scenes?
It's also kind of funny because this is, maybe we had time to do this when we were in Calgary, but we couldn't do it in the same way because things are real when you're here and real for others too. Like even
Right.
the people we're talking to, he was like, yeah, he just wasn't comfortable working with us from afar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we need to see it and we need to know and we need to give clear direction by putting like stakes in the ground. This is where we want the gravel to come to.
Yeah.
We need to be clear about like where we want the road to go and what we need removed. And yeah, so it's like, well, in theory, these are things, and probably in reality, some of these things could be done from afar. Like you can make it happen, but it's like not as ideal as being here, and you learn so much from being on site.
Mhm.
But the downside of that is like we try to organize as much as we can, and there are some things that we couldn't figure out till we're here, and we can talk to certain people, and are still kind of up in the air. Like even we're going to be moving over to that property. Well, we won't have a plug. We won't have a sewage source there. We won't have a water source yet.
Mm.
Because we're trying to figure, like, digging a well is no small thing. That costs a lot of money. So where are you going to put it?
Yeah.
But that means for the summer, we're still trying to sort out, like, we can't come back here because these are rented long term. Like we could show up and someone's already using the water and sewer. We can't just like dump
Yeah.
someone else's parked. Um, so we don't know where we're gonna go to access our water and dump our sewer through the summer. And even with the electric, that's gonna be less reliable when we're not connected to the grid. We have a
Mhm.
bunch of backup sources, like we have the solar that can power the generator can power most things. There's solar for the battery on the RV. We have a backup generator that's fossil fuel generator that can power the other batteries. So there are lots of things we have in place as backups, but only by living in this trailer do you realize, okay, well, if the battery doesn't get a deep charge, it's still not, I don't think it's up there. I think it's 1/3. We've been here for 2 days. The
Mm.
battery has not got a full, in the trailer, the trailer battery has not got a full deep charge. And because we were off grid for a couple weeks, 3 weeks by that point, it had gotten so low that the solar wasn't fully recharging it and it was dying quickly, which meant our fridge is powered by propane, but the spark is electric.
Right.
So the fridge went off, the freezer went off, the heat, there's also a spark. Like it also requires electricity briefly
Mhm.
to activate the propane. So the stove we could cook, but there were other things we were losing out on. I'd have no idea unless we'd experienced this. And these are things that like maybe even people who are selling us a trailer wouldn't think about too, because people are not always going off grid and they're
Right.
not necessarily designed. They're designed partially for that, but also mostly people will be going to places with hookups.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
feel like I said a lot there, but
No, but that's really, I was going to ask, like, what are some of the unforeseen and the difficult things that, because that's part of this a whole experience and project too, is you don't know what you don't know until something
Yeah.
happens, and then you kind of are problem solving and learning as you go, which is interesting. What do you think has, I mean, 10 days is a long time and also not a long time, and considering what you've experienced, in those 10 days, what do you think, how do you think you've changed, or what are you surprised that you learned, either a skill or something about yourself or something about the project? And what's new for you? How are you changed?
Yeah, I feel like, it seems like we can comfortably live in such a like a smaller space and with just like the basic needs. I think that was surprising to kind of learn about ourselves. Like we got accustomed pretty quickly. Um,
Mm.
and
Which is a whole conversation in itself. Like, how
yeah,
much do we really need?
exactly.
Yeah.
I already
Um,
feel that way. Like going through the drawer, I was just repacking the drawer. I was like, I brought too many clothes.
Yeah, interesting.
mhm.
The drawer, like the single drawer that you have. Yeah.
um,
I'm amazed at how quickly we adapt to, the things that we think that we need, that when we don't have it, it's like, oh, I'm really fine. And how quick that process can be. It's just
mhm.
an observation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and just how much you can learn about the land just from spending time
Mhm.
daily just on it, and just how different it is every time, and how much more of a familiar feeling I get when I go now. It's like, oh, this is our hammock spot, it's
Mm.
really serene and um yeah, and peaceful. Like um yeah, so it's just really, again, that's observing and interacting piece, and how important that is and how valuable it is.
That's a permaculture tenant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, I feel like we're both, because Sammy pointed it out when I noticed certain things on the land, and then definitely you're like, well, you just even getting lost in the land is a way of getting to know it. I'm like, oh, now I discovered this new thing, but then, oh, but this looks familiar. So yeah, I feel like we're both kind of seeing, like recognizing it more and knowing like certain areas of it, because
Mm.
there's so much foresty areas, so it's harder to map out in your mind. There's more like weaving. We go to the Neighbours and you can just like walk down this straight road,
Straight
like
row.
a straight road, but there's also will be meandering paths. And I was just like, when you compare it in your head, it feels like you're walking forever through our property. It's the same like length,
Hmm.
um, but it just feels so much more wild. And yeah, we're just getting to know certain pockets.
Mm.
Um, that is nice. And then I think probably we already knew this, but um I think for us we have different preferences about how we'd like to start our day and end our day even probably. Like
Mm.
I I feel like I like to tinker more in the evening, um like organize things and move things around or cook or like whatever. I think I like doing things more then, and Sam likes to get up and go really quick.
Mm.
That's really hard when that's highlighted when we're 10 minutes away and have to drive together, because he's
Right.
like, let's go. And maybe I'm less anxious to get going first thing in the morning. So I think just highlighting those differences and working with them, finding
Mm.
ways to work with it, and also appreciating that we're even closer so that we don't have to navigate that as much. Like we can do our own things. We
Right.
did yesterday. Um, Yeah, and I think also just realizing, so the terminology off grid is problematic for me. I think we'll still use it. I think we need to like tag things that way, because
Is everything okay?
There were just footsteps above us, but we're not living in a basement, so
Above you? Is there a ghost? Are you not just out in the middle of at a campsite?
Just
Actually,
wildlife.
I heard that this morning too. So, um,
Like animal
could
footprints.
be like could be a squirrel and
Oh, okay. I was picturing like
actually
a
quite
human.
loud.
Oh, that's so funny.
Sorry, but the off grid. I'm like off grid, or oh yeah, we looked up synonyms of it. What were they?
Like away from the
Civil.
civilization or something.
Hmm.
There was another one.
Offline, disconnected, which doesn't sound right because we're talking about connection mostly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
Yeah, it doesn't feel right.
renewable. Yeah.
Yeah, renewable
Mhm.
is good, but yeah, mostly those other synonyms just didn't. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it accurately represents because I'm like, there's so many people that have contributed to. I guess I don't think about that as much when we're in our city home,
Mm.
but the person that Ryan, Canadian Off-Grid Depot, I think,
Mhm.
like we got stuff from his business. He provided us a lot of things, but also a lot of information. And there's people that build the solar panel. Like I'm just thinking about how interconnected this is. I'm like, there isn't an off-grid really.
Right.
You do it, you're still interconnected to so many other pieces of the system as a whole. And I
Right.
think that's just being highlighted for me, the materials, the equipment, the tools, how we rely on each other,
Mm.
even how we need to rely on each other beyond the things that we provide each other, but just even the historical knowledge that people are providing us
Mm.
land here, and the other forms of support that we get from friends and family, just even like encouraging us. So there's just so many parts of the system that allow us to do this. I think that
Mm.
highlighted for me.
Mhm. Mhm. That's pretty amazing to think about that. Yeah, because when you think of off grid, you think away and disconnected, but that idea of how you're weaving, different parts of different elements that's necessary for like your survival versus going hard to be cut to cut yourself off. This is like a really interesting way of a different way of living, and we would say off grid because we're not, it's you're not in a like a block of other houses that have all the same kind of like, I'm thinking of the grids of water and electricity and
Yeah.
but a really it's such a, I feel like I would love to hear more about yeah how that continues to evolve for you in this project. um I guess last question, what's coming up, what do you have planned, knowing that it could totally change depending, because everything's still very fluid, but
Yeah, we've
the
got
MBA students, I guess, are coming up. That's a
yeah a lot.
feedback there.
We have a lot of dreams.
Hmm.
Yeah, we want to have. Yeah, we can't wait for the business plan and what the students have come up with. We want to make a road. Nick's friend Saima and Mark will be coming by shortly.
Oh, that's so great. When do they arrive?
The 18th or 19th.
Okay, very soon.
Yeah.
So once this pad is completed, hopefully we can finally move in there and really settle there as our new home. We're hoping to get the screw piles in, start building the foundation for the bunkies.
Get
Yeah.
a shipping container for storage to work from. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe build a garden bed right beside that.
Mm.
Some plants.
We need a compost pit because we're collecting compost, but it's not going
Right.
Yes.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yep. Um, and we want to demolish the shed
Right.
or the stable at some point. We want to kind of take it apart, utilize what resources are already there that can be used.
Yeah.
It's not, doesn't make sense to keep it as it is, but I think there's possibility to repurpose or upcycle some of the materials for sure. And some things that are in there or just we found in the woods could just be cool
Mm-hmm.
back pieces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
We're just going to continue to find the access points that we want to go towards the river, just really continue to observe and interact the land even more.
Yeah.
Find and labeling those pathways, I think, will be a cool thing to continue to work on. And just like it's very doable for us or for
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, and the bunkies are coming in the first week of July, so that's definitely a project to look forward to.
That's so exciting.
Given all these things are coming in place. Yep.
Oh my goodness. If I feel like super excited when I think about all of those things, like I could see it on your faces too. Like it's been just so long in planning and in the initial conversations thinking about what did you want to come away with at the end of the summer, like
Mhm.
what were you hoping to do this summer? Did you
Yeah.
expect this? Has it, the theoretical planning around something and developing a, maybe we'll do this thing, and being here in it now, is this what you expected?
Yeah, good
That's a
question.
really good question. Yeah, I think overall it's some things definitely feel like it's still same as before, but it's ultimately it is all very different when you're just thinking in theory versus actually experiencing it and realizing what you can and can't do
Mm.
certain spots and just like and having that feeling in yourself as well.
What do you mean?
Just like well, just like the feeling when you're actually there, it's like, oh, I think this would definitely be a better place for
I see. Instead of looking at like the satellite.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so limited.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's so cool. Anything else you feel like sharing?
Oh, a highlight actually should have been. You go get your net.
Oh no.
That at the dollar store.
I love it already. I don't know what's happening, but yes, the dollar store.
Because there are a lot of flies right now.
Flies?
And
This is what you were wearing in the video.
and and Sam said the other day Sam said, "This is the best decision I've ever made in my life." It was $1.50 for that.
Did you
And
get one too?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more reluctant to wear it, but I will, yeah, because there's been some days, it just depends on the day, the weather, or like where we are on the property. There
Mm.
were a lot of mosquitoes by the hammocks the other day, so yeah. Um, yeah, it is worthwhile.
That's
Best
amazing.
decision I've ever made.
That was something that I got a video from you, and you, Sam, you're wearing the net, and the pad, like the kind of area right by the road, had just been cleared, and there was a heartbroken Sam who's going and rescuing lupins that have been pushed to the side to try and replant them. I don't know how many did you successfully get back in the ground?
3.
Oh yeah,
That was all that
that's
was,
so good.
and there were hundreds.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It's one of those things when you think like, okay, we have to do this so that we can actually be there, but what's required to get rid of all of those, that to clear that land, to move
Mhm.
things. So that was just such a sweet sound moment that I loved seeing that. And you looked great in the net.
Thanks, I did too.
Well, I guess we'll touch base in the next week or so, week and a bit. It's just so much fun to hear all of these different pieces, and I am really glad that we get to keep updates on like what you're experiencing and how things are changing, because already there's been so much. You just thinking about the information that you have accumulated into your being based on your experiences and being present where you are, living off grid but not disconnected, learning from the space and the people around you is just, it's really cool to get to hear. So thanks so much for sharing. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you,
Good
sir.
chat.
Yeah.
Great.
So much.
Until next time.
Till next time.